Jodi.
Good morning, Miss Robin. How's it going?
Good. So I'm excited for this episode of the Special Agent Mom podcast. Are you excited?
Yeah, look at us. We have another guest. Woohoo!
We do. 2 weeks in a row.
Oh, I know.
So our guest with us today is Sharolyn Jackson, and we're going to talk a whole lot about Walk Kansas, what it is, how people can join, and share some special things going on this year. But before we get there, Jodi, you want to introduce yourself?
Yes, I am Jodi Drake. I am the Family and Consumer Science Extension Agent in Pratt, Kansas. And who are you, Robin?
I'm Robin Eubank Alice, and I'm the K-State Research and Extension Agent in Barber County, Kansas.
And Sherilyn, we will let you introduce yourself because we don't want to mess up your title. So go right ahead.
I'm an extension specialist for family consumer sciences in the northeast region of the state. I'm putting myself in a different part of the state this morning. I'm also the program leader coordinator for Extension and Family and Consumer Sciences. So I'm glad
And
to be here with you guys.
for joining us this morning. And we invited you on because you are the Walk Kansas guru, queen of Walk Kansas, know it all of Walk Kansas, and we need to know it all. So I know that Pratt County has participated in Walk Kansas since its inception 25 years ago, and we have a lot of people in my county who look forward to it every year. So if you wouldn't mind, just give us a brief rundown of what it is, how it started. Start at the very beginning, as Julie Andrews says.
Okay. Well, Walk Kansas is an 8-week health initiative that's coordinated by K-State Research and Extension. It's available to anybody. So we don't, when they ask who's your target audience, I'm like, it's everyone. That's kind of the challenge of this thing. So we have all ages, all types of people. And it's not just limited to Kansas. We have people from out of state, out of the country, different parts of the world. And so that's what makes it really fun. It's all done pretty much virtually, unless local offices and local communities have their own events and things, but it's all done virtually. And so you have the option of participating as an individual, going solo, or as part of a team, which is really fun. And so our teams are generally 4 to 6 people, and they can choose between 4 of our different virtual trails based on how much activity they want to strive to get. And so when we say activity, it's what we count is the moderate and vigorous activity. So moderate being you can walk and carry on a conversation just barely, but you can't sing. And vigorous activity is where you can say like a word or two, but you can't really have a conversation. So those are easy ways to determine if what level of intensity you're working at. And so collectively, then this team would reach that goal and achieve the length of the distance that they select based on their trail. The program was initially based on if you had a team of 6 people and they met the minimum guidelines for physical activity, which is 150 minutes of moderate activity per week, they could collectively walk across the state of Kansas, about 423 miles. And so that's what the program was based on. Our minimal activity trail now is the 8 Wonders of Kansas Trail. So you and your team can learn about what those 8 wonders are and through the virtual trail on the website. And then each time you go through a waypoint along your path, you'll learn about those 8 wonders and different facts about them. And then there's several other trails. There's one that starts in the Little Balkans area of Southeast Kansas, ends up in Nicodemus, and so on. So just that's the first step is get your team together, select a trail, and then register online. And that's at walkkansas.org, O-R-G.
You know,
That
I have new staff in my office, and so they were hearing about this for the first time this year. And they're like, there's no way we can't walk that far. That doesn't work. And I'm like, yes, let's go through the math. We've done this enough years, we know.
Yep.
And then they'd never heard of the 8 Wonders of Kansas because they had recently moved back to Kansas after, oh, probably 20 years of being gone. And so they had never heard of that. So even I know it's been a few years that we've been talking about the eight wonders of Kansas, but it's still new to people.
Yeah, yeah, that's right. And, to be able to know what those are, to recite them, and maybe, I haven't even been to all eight. So that's my goal for this year is I'm going to physically get there. So,
Okay, so this is how old I am, Sherilyn. I remember actually having the physical map
mhm.
that we put up. This is when our office used to be in the courthouse. We put up outside on the wall of the courthouse, and we would track each team for them.
Yes.
I remember doing that, and it was a lot of work.
Uh-huh.
And so I am ever so grateful for for the website and being able to do this virtually. Thank you for doing that. That was so nice. So it is really just that simple to go online and sign up online. And I noticed you're wearing this year's t-shirt, by the way. The purple
Sorry.
is lovely.
Our anniversary shirt, we have also, I should have brought it with me, but the coolest caps, especially the one for the ladies. It's just really neat.
Oh,
Got a
that is
fun
so
little lining of a print on the back. So yeah, we got some neat caps and the little fanny pack kind of thing that you can wear crossbody,
cool.
and some long sleeved hooded t-shirts and sweatshirts. So there's just plenty there. And
Yeah,
that's shopwhatkansas.com to get the t-shirts.
t-shirts come in gray as well,
Yes,
and they are $12.
right.
Correct? The one that you're wearing is $12. Yeah. Yeah. So that's kind of fun.
Yeah.
So what are some of the benefits to people that actually participate in the program? What are some of the benefits that they see?
Well, there are some immediate benefits to getting regular physical activity. And so that's what I think is important to focus on. And most people say, I want to lose weight, but that's going to take a little while. And
Yeah,
it's
for
going to be
sure.
gradual, but there are some immediate benefits. And a lot of those are just your level of energy. A lot of times people think I'm just so tired, I need to take a nap. No, go out and take a walk, and then you'll have more energy. So you have more energy, have better mental focus, and then you'll also find that you sleep better. Those are probably the three that are immediate. Like the moment you start increasing your physical activity or getting any at all, if you're not getting much at this point. Long-term benefits are really more related to your overall health in terms of maybe bringing down your blood pressure, getting your blood cholesterol in check, preventing heart disease, certain types of cancer, other kinds of chronic illness, and just managing it. People with diabetes or pre-diabetes, if you're in that pre-diabetes phase, you can really put off the full-blown diabetes diagnosis for quite a while, or reverse that completely if you can get some things in check with healthy eating, regular exercise, those kind of things. And so those are lots of good benefits. And yes, weight loss eventually can be one of those benefits too. But
So
lots of mental health benefits.
oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, I was just doing a lesson in Barber County. Did it this week for some ladies in my county on it's called Nature and You, and just the benefits of just not necessarily exercising outside, but just actually being outside and being in nature. You can get some great health benefits just being outside in nature.
Yes.
Add a little exercise to that, there's a double whammy for you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then we also, one of the main things is people say, I don't like to exercise. Well, what is an activity that you do like to do? And
Yes.
first of all, you can start with being out in nature. So what do you like to do out in nature? Do you like to
Yes.
garden? Do to different things? And so even gardening can be good physical activity. And if getting into gardening season, I'm sure some of our listeners out there are thinking about when they go out for the first day and work in their garden and they realize some mussels they'd forgotten about. They're kind of nudging them the next day. And so their gardening can be really good activity too. And there are ways that you can make it more beneficial in terms of exercise. So there's lots of things you can do. Start with something that you enjoy doing, because if you don't enjoy it, you're not going to keep doing it.
So, what other activities count besides just walking? Because there's some people that just do not like walking.
Sure. And some people, maybe there's somebody that can't walk. So rolling like in a wheelchair, you can, get some good cardio activity that way. But walking, of course, we've got some runners out there that certainly counts. Bicycling, um, playing pickleball or tennis, also any kind of activity, dancing, something that gets your heart rate up to that level where you can still carry on that conversation, but you can't sing. So it's really anything. And we used to think that it had to be done for 10 consecutive minutes, but they've sort of decided, kind of said that now it's just any kind of activity that you can get. And even a regular walk, if you're having a conversation with your friends, your neighbors, you're out walking for about 30 seconds, pick up that pace to where you're walking as fast as you can, and then go back to walking at a regular pace. That'll help increase your physical fitness as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, I have had people ask me, and I know the right answer, but I know what answer you're going to give me, but I'm going to ask it anyway. People who are like postal carriers and walk on their route, can they count those the time that they're at work and walking? Can they count that?
Well, they're kind of in a unique position. So we we tell people to count either physical activity minutes. The physical activity guidelines are based in minutes, or to count total steps per day. And so for the postal workers, they could count those total steps per day, but to think that they're going to be walking at that moderate level for 6 hours straight is not what they're doing. So that in their case, it would be counting steps. So if they can count their steps, yeah, they can include that.
I always tell them that really should be outside of their normal
Right. It should
work.
be. It
Yeah, it
if
should be
they can.
exerting some extra effort.
Right. And at that moderate to vigorous level.
Yeah, yeah, that's usually my answer to them. I haven't had anybody
But
ask me that question for a while, but occasionally I'll get that question.
but we also just want people to move more. So
Oh,
that's
absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so tell us if there's any other like special things going on for the 25th anniversary, because that's a big number. That's a big deal.
yeah, it is a big deal. And so it's 25 years as a statewide program. And so it's actually been going on longer than 25 years. So when I was an agent in Riley County in the 1990s, as part of the American Heart Association Program Committee, there were really three of us that sat around the table and were talking about programming. And Marty Reed, who at the time was head of cardiac rehab at our local hospital, was talking about how people that come to see me are just not exercising. These heart patients aren't getting physical activity. And it really wasn't the buzz at that time as it is now. I think you have to pretty much live under a rock if you haven't heard that physical activity is good for you in today's world. But back then, it really wasn't talked about as much. There was a lot of focus on eating or what you're eating. And so, but Marty said, these people aren't exercising. They're not getting physical activity. And so um, the other partner in this little trio was Joan Smith from our local health department, and we started talking about what can we do to get people being more active. And that was kind of the beginning of Walk Kansas. It morphed and changed a bit, and pretty soon, Pottawatomie County next to us was on board. They'd heard about it. They wanted to participate, and we had shortly after that a group of 7 counties, and an extension. We at that time anyway did a lot of work in what we called teaching blocks, and so we had a group of 7 counties that partnered together for programming, and so we did this as a 7-county teaching block, and the word just spread. And so I was able to convince Mike Bradshaw, who was our state health specialist at that time, to go statewide with this program. And so we're celebrating the 25 years statewide is what we're celebrating. But yeah, longer than that even. But I mentioned Marty because Marty's going to be joining us and doing a couple of webinars for us for the Walk Kansas
very cool.
participants. Yeah, Marty's a gem. She just recently retired from cardiac rehab, but she's in her retirement doing some special. She took a special an update or a class on diabetes and heart health. And so she's going to share with us all of the up-to-date information that she's just learned. And so there's a lot of a connection between diabetes and heart health. But this isn't just for people with diabetes by any means. It's good, heart health, heart disease is still the number one killer of both men,
Oh, for
premature
sure.
death cause of both men and women. It's something we all have to be very in tune with. And so she's going to talk about heart health, but also what's that connection between if you have diabetes or pre-diabetes, you have an increased risk for developing heart disease. So that's our first one. That's going to be on April 16. And then the next week, April 23, Joshua Carr, he's a new faculty member in kinesiology, and he's great. He's very passionate about resistance exercise. So he's going to let us know, what is that? How do you do it at home with very little equipment or none at all? Why is it important? And it's particularly important as you age, and we're all getting older, so it becomes more and more important. So Josh is going to be here. He's going to talk about that and inspire us. And then in May, on May 7, Marty's back to do another webinar on foot care. And as we all know, with walking and everything we do, a lot of times we neglect our feet, and they're pretty important. So she's going to talk about basic foot care and then add some tips in there for people who do have diabetes and why it's important for them to be especially in tune to foot care. And then on May 14, Erin Martinez, our adult development and aging specialist, and myself are going to do a webinar on the blue zones. And these are the regions or communities around the world where people live longer and healthier lives. They have the highest percentage of centenarians. And these are people that are living a pretty vibrant life. Erin and I had the good fortune of being able to visit Icaria, Greece a number of years ago, and that is one of the blue zones. And then Erin also the Keys to Embracing Aging, if that's something that you guys have offered, is based on those blue zones principles. What are the commonalities there? So that's going to be our last webinar.
Very cool. And are these just open to the Walk Kansas participants?
Yes, these are the Walk Kansas participants.
Cool. Very cool.
There's also a weekly newsletter that goes out too, and each week we'll have some tips on kind of to get people through, particularly if they haven't done much kind of physical activity, why you need to do a warm up and cool down. What does that look like? Why is it important? That's always one of our topics. We'll talk about adding the intervals, those bursts of physical activity. I'll have some information about nutrition and healthy eating every week, as well as a recipe to try. We do also have some safety tips that we're going to have this year as well in each newsletter. So just little reminders. So we'll send that out every week and post it in our online portal as well.
So I know that one thing that our participants always love to do is to tell us stories. So I'm kind of curious, where you're leading the statewide program, do you have some stories or some participants that just really stick in your mind?
Oh, yes.
Okay.
We have some funny stories. We were just talking earlier about having a debate about does horseback riding count as physical activity? And can our dogs join and be part of Walk Kansas? So, just funny things like that. I know you guys can tell those too, but I really feel like one thing we need to talk about is perhaps one of our greatest Walk Kansas champions over the years is a lady named Marjorie Neely, and she's from Neosho County. Marjorie, in 2012, she wanted to come visit us. I'm going to share my screen for those who are watching this on your screen here, because I want you to get a visual of Marge. Can you see Marge?
Yes,
Yep.
you can.
Yes, she came to She came,
listeners.
yeah, she came to campus with Tara Solomon Smith, her extension agent in Neosho County, and Marge just lived Watt, Kansas. She made Tara stop every hour that they were driving up to get a little walk break. When they got here, of course, she's all dressed up in her Watt, Kansas t-shirt and cap and what have you. We got here and she did her first radio interview of her life here at K-State and talked about Watt, Kansas. It was so cute because she talked about, well, for those that don't have the visual of Marge, she passed away in 2017 and she was 97 years old. So Marge was doing all of this in her later years. And so she came and she talked on the radio about when she wakes up in the morning, she'd walk in bed and she was doing the little motions. Of course, nobody could see that, but I could. She was walking in her chair and did some stretching in bed. And then she every year would call me and want to know what's going to be the focus this year. And she said, I've been reading, and she'd tell me about what she'd learned about physical activity. And there was one year it was really stuck in my mind. And she says, Sharolyn, I've been reading about intervals. Do you know about intervals? And I said, well, yes, I do. And that we're going to talk about intervals. And she said, I've been doing that and I think it's really helping. And so she sent me information about intervals. And we always talk about that in the newsletters and why that's an easy thing you can do to help increase your fitness. And she's in her last couple of years, she lost her eyesight. And so her family had put up like a heavy duty wire screen to kind of give her something to hold on to, but also keep her from her stove, which was so she would see it and not run into it. And so she said, I just hold on and I march in place, and then I march really, really fast for a few seconds, and then I go back to marching in place. And so she was doing intervals clear through, even when she couldn't really, go out and walk like she normally did. But she was such an inspiration. And in that year, that 2012, when she came up here, she'd recruited 10 Watt, Kansas teams on herself, just by
Oh,
herself.
wow.
When she got here, she took them to the packets to her tax preparer. She took them to the grocery store, talked to people in the produce section about
Oh,
Watt.
wow. Well, how could you tell her no?
Yeah. And so she was quite the champion. And she had a couple of quotes that I think are things that we need to remember ourselves. And she'd say, your health is the result of what you eat, what you do, and what you're born with. Can't agree with that.
That's true.
And
Yeah.
then she'd say, every year, she said, Sharolyn, we've got to keep moving. It makes everything easier. So we're gonna celebrate all Marge has contributed to Watt, Kansas too, and keep her words of wisdom with us as well.
Oh, I love that. I love that. For those of you who weren't able to see the picture Sharolyn shared with us was this beautiful woman using a walker on wheels, of course, because that would be faster. She had a beautiful denim skirt on, her Watt, Kansas t-shirt, and a hat, and she was moving in that picture.
Yep.
You could tell it was a lovely photo.
It was a great day. We had lunch with our director of extension, Daryl Buchholz, over at the union, and I think Marge her enthusiasm was just contagious. So
I love that. I love it. Yeah. Yeah. Speaking of pets, I know I know you've probably tossed around the idea of incentives to get people out walking. I know that when people have a pet, they have to walk. That kind of gets them out the door a little bit more and gives them a reason to get outside and get to walking. People who have dogs are probably more likely to get outside. There's a gentleman in my local park who has a little Chihuahua that every single time I'm at the park, I see him and his Chihuahua, and they are the sweetest. And now he's got a lady friend that he walks with who also has her Chihuahua is quite a bit chunkier. But But he told me one time how much weight he's lost since he started walking, and I think that's great. Um, a long time ago, though, I had a gentleman on one of my Walk Kansas teams who did want to count his dog's miles, and since he was a local judge, um, I I did not argue with him. I just you don't argue with the judge, and so I let Winston count his miles as well
We
because
had another Winston, the dog, that has been a very influential
Mhm.
dog in Watt, Kansas. That was a fun thing we did. I remember which year it was, but he was a very handsome, white, fluffy dog named Winston who had weekly conversations with Maggie over in Los Angeles, who was the dog of a friend of mine
Mhm.
um, who
Our
does
pets are important.
voiceover work. So the voices of Winston and Maggie came out too in some little episodes.
Uh-huh.
But anything, yes, dogs are, particularly dogs, are great motivation for walking. I have a couple of overgrown kittens, and one that wants to go outside. So Teddy has been out on a leash, but it's really Oscar that needs the walk more. So I don't know what we're gonna do, but
Uh-huh.
I'm gonna try to do some walking with Teddy too.
Now I have seen people put their cats in strollers and walk with their cats that way, but I have not tried that with my cat. I'm pretty sure she would not stay in a stroller. Not happening with Gunta. Would not happen. Not at
No.
all.
I have a dog, but she's small enough we have to buy cat collars to be able to keep them on her. So,
Oh, she is tiny.
yep, 4.5 pounds full grown. So she is a little thing. But
Well,
Yeah.
one of
Yeah.
my kittens is 14 pounds and still growing. So
That's funny. That's funny. Um, so are there any like big changes to the program that participants will see this year that they need to be aware of?
no, not a lot of changes. We are for 2026 going to have a new online system and it's already in the works. So
Oh,
I'm very excited about that. We'll have new trails. If you have our listeners out there have suggestions for some of our trails, please send them my way. I've started working on one haunted Kansas trail.
oh, I love it.
So that could be fun for people that may want to know about places in the state that could be haunted. But I'm certainly open to all kinds of suggestions. So I've thought about a Kansas foodies trail, just different things that we can do to explore the state. Also, a lot of our trails give history kind of tips and such too.
Hmm.
But no, not a lot of changes this year because we're really trying to get that new system up and running for next year. One thing I do want to mention is that, excuse me, if you do the vigorous activity, you can count, people that run would like to count their distance and not just their time. So if you're doing the vigorous activity, you can count that as double those minutes to report into the system.
Oh,
So
yes.
if you
Okay.
run for 10 minutes
Hmm.
straight, you can report 20 minutes of activity,
Oh, that's good to know.
or you can report your steps.
That's good to know. Now, are there some discounts available? Because I know sometimes schools or hospitals want to sign up teams. Are there some discounts available for students?
We do not charge any youth to participate. So if you're a
Oh,
high school
okay.
senior and below, there's
Okay.
no charge, and there are discount codes for those students. We also offer a discount code if you are eligible for SNAP benefits. We
Okay.
don't charge either. Or people living in like nursing homes. We have a couple of teams where a nursing home staff member has the residents come out and do like a Walk Kansas break. And they just have fun with it. We certainly don't charge in that case.
Okay,
It's
that's
it's
good
a
to
pretty
know.
affordable program at $10 per person.
Mhm.
And I just want to put a plug out there for any employers. It's a pretty affordable way to have a workplace wellness program for your employees. If you want to pick that up, I can create a discount code that will allow your employees to register using that code and then be able to invoice the the employer, the business, the company, whatever, and once the
Oh,
registration is closed.
that's good to know. Um, I've got a question for you, Robin. Do you do anything special in your county? Just Barber County special?
I have. We've done kickoffs and we've done wrap up parties. It just kind of depends where my teams are. Barber County's physically spread out enough that sometimes it makes sense to do more of a virtual congratulations on getting signed up than I'm trying to bring everybody together in one spot. What about you, Jody? What have you done?
Yeah, sometimes we'll do a kickoff. It just depends on when the kickoff weekend happens. One year it happened over Easter weekend, so that didn't work out so well. Um, we also do a story walk along with Walk Kansas during that 8 weeks as well. So that's always nice to kind of coincide that. And I partner that with my local library. And then when the kids get done with the story walk, they go to the library for a prize. And I have more adults stop me in the park and say, "Hey, thanks for putting up story walk. We really enjoy it." than I do the kids. So it's just kind of a fun activity for the whole family to get involved in. So, and whether they've enrolled in Walk Kansas or not, it doesn't really matter. The point is everyone's getting out and walking and enjoying some nature. So that's the whole point. So yeah, it's kind of nice. So, Sherilyn, do you have any kind of a feel for what maybe some other counties are doing for like whole community wide activities?
Sometimes they host opportunities to learn about different types of physical activity. They might have somebody come in and do Tai Chi to introduce that, or they might do something related to learning to play pickleball or just some kind of activity, or they host group walks out in parks and walking trails in their community. Those are some of the things I hear most
Yeah, I've tried
often.
some group walks too in the past. Yeah. Just it just depends on the year and how many teams I have sign up, really. One year I did try a weekly Friday walk, and I would have a handful. It just depends how motivated we are and the weather too, honestly.
Yeah, and then some of them do the poker walks.
Mhm.
You've
Mhm.
ever tried that? And those are kind of fun.
Yeah.
Some of them host a location where people can come in and watch the webinars together, and they might have a
Mhm.
healthy snack or something along with it.
Yeah, because there's some great recipes in the newsletters as well. So
So we used to in Riley County have a big post event, bringing the high school jazz band, and we just kind of have a celebration, talk about people sharing their stories on, how they motivate each other as a team, and we'd have some good snacks. We always had, well, in Riley County, we called it Walk Kansas salsa, but it's a corn and black bean salsa that every year people look forward to. So I may have to put that in the newsletter this year as a nod to the past and having those those activities. But we used to have just being able to celebrate, which is a really important thing to do. You want to celebrate reaching your goal, and have fun
yeah.
with it. Again, it's just one of those things that if it's not enjoyable, people aren't going to keep doing it.
I think you hit something there that's celebrating reaching your goal. I shared we've got some new people in our office, and one person asked me, so I can go the farthest. I'm like, you can go the farthest if you want, but I don't give prizes for going the farthest. I give prizes for people who reach their goal, and I give them away more door prize style. But it's about reaching the goal, because what the effort it takes me to reach the goal may not be the same effort it takes somebody else. And I think that's one of the best things about Walk Kansas is it doesn't matter if you exceed your goal. That's great, and we'll applaud you and we'll celebrate it. But it's not about who can be the best. It's just us all getting better together.
And we've kind of learned this lesson over time. When we started with the program years ago, we were incentivizing whoever got the most miles, but
Mhm.
that's really not what we're here for. We're here to help people develop healthier lifestyle habits. And we want to applaud, like you said it really well, Robin, what effort it takes for one person is going to be different than another, and to
Mhm.
reach their individual goals. And that's what we really want to promote. And it's not about people's athleticism, because we're all different in that regard. And really, I always have said what Kansas is for the couch potatoes, the people that are out there running half marathons and what have you. They're fine. We really want to get the people who need that nudge, who know they need to be more active, but it's just a struggle. And how can we help them carve out some time in their day? How can we help them make a few small changes that over time add up to big changes?
So, as we do wrap up today, Sherilyn, is there one last thought you'd want to leave people with?
I just hope that if you're listening out there, that you'll be inspired to come join the fun. There's a lot we can do together. We can learn from each other. And the last week and 10 days or so, weather's been pretty great in Kansas. So it's a good thing to get out in nature, enjoy that, and just do something for yourself to support your own personal health.
Do something for yourself. I like that.
Like that.
Yeah.
So, Jodi, as we close out here, where can they find us if they found us?
Well,
How can they?
hopefully they've already found our podcast, Special Agent Mom Podcast, on Spotify or Apple. They can email us their fabulous ideas at jdrake@ksu.edu or reubank@ksu.edu. They can also find our Facebook page at Barber County Extension or Pratt CO Extension. I'm on Instagram too at Pratt CO Extension and on YouTube at Pratt County Extension. How's that?
Who? Jodi, you will forever have a job on our podcast because you can do that so much better than I
You
can.
can't fire me.
So just a little teaser. It ends up we're going to have a guest 3 weeks in a row.
Hopefully.
Yeah, so we're still getting next week's lined up. I am going to give the teaser that we are trying to bring back a former 4-H'er to share with her experiences and where
Famous.
she's at now. So
Yeah.
with that, so Sherilyn, thank you for joining us today. I was I've always admired how you created Walk Kansas and it became this statewide and um, really, like you shared, international thing because anybody can compete for or not compete, participate from anywhere. So
Yeah, it's great fun. It is.
Thank you.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah.